Mavis was soon having her side plate mended at the works. It was far from the confines of the quarry, and she had many engines to talk with. Though she enjoyed hearing their stories, her favorite thing to do was watch the Skarloey railway engines bustling about. She was amused that such little engines could be so busy. One morning, she was moved to a siding close to the little railway. She was beginning to feel lonely when Rusty arrived pulling coaches. Mavis was surprised. "Have they taken you off the maintenance trains, Rusty?"
"Goodness, no," chuckled Rusty. "They'd have a hard go trying to take the permanent way away from me. We all take turns with the enthusiast trains, and today is mine."
Mavis was impressed. "That must be so nice," she sighed. "I'd never be able to pull coaches, let alone enthusiasts."
"You know, I never thought I could either," said Rusty. "That is, until Rheneas stepped in."
"Rheneas?" asked Mavis.
"Oh yes," smiled Rusty. "I've some time before I meant to leave. Let me tell you about it."
When Rheneas returned from being mended, visitors flocked to the Skarloey Railway. Some had ridden with him and Skarloey in the past. Others had heard of his heroism and came just to take his picture. To ease him back into working life, the Thin Controller scheduled enthusiast specials so everyone could ride with the gallant old engine. Skarloey's tale gave the other engines deep admiration for Rheneas. He was more hardened than Skarloey, and the others made sure they were on their best behavior around him. The old engines chuckled about this, and gave each other a wink when the young ones straightened up. One morning, Rheneas' fire was slow to start, so Rusty was asked to take the train. The little diesel was not used to coaches, and felt quite nervous as he came to the station. The visitors were most surprised to hear the hum of a motor at the head of their train.
"What's that maintenance diesel doing here? We were promised number 2,
they grumbled. Rusty set off, but the further he went, the worse the complaints became. By the time he returned, he was most upset. Rheneas was sizzling at the sheds when Rusty came by. "Ah, Rusty," he smiled. "Thank you for standing in for me. No troubles, I presume?"
"Well,
Rusty stammered, and he recounted what happened. Rheneas said nothing, but he looked towards the station and scowled. Rusty scampered off.
"Oh dear," he thought, "I've let Rheneas down."
Later, Rheneas backed down onto the coaches to a chorus of cheers. The enthusiasts flocked to take his picture, but he continued to scowl and eyed them suspiciously. When the guard's whistle blew, they ran to the coaches, and Rheneas set off up the line. The journey to the top station was smooth as ever. The visitors' cameras clicked and flashed as they photographed the beautiful landscape. The Thin Controller was on board too, telling tales of the line's early years. The old coaches tittered happily. They hadn't been so full in years. But Rheneas remained stoic and silent. Soon they slowed as they approached the loop line. Rusty and the Permanent Way gang waited to let Rheneas pass. The visitors sniffed rudely.
"We're trying to get nice pictures of the line," said one man. "Not that scruffy maintenance diesel."
Rusty looked at his buffers. He felt like crying. Suddenly, there was a great screeching noise. Everyone jumped in surprise as Rheneas came to a complete standstill. "What the devil?" pondered the driver. He couldn't do a thing to make Rheneas move. Everyone came to look at the old engine. They checked his valves and brakes, but nothing seemed out of sorts.
"What's the matter, Rheneas?" asked the Thin Controller. "Is everything all right?"
"No, sir, it is not," came the blunt reply. "I will not move another wheel until this disrespect comes to an end." The thin controller was taken aback. What do you mean?
These enthusiasts say they have a love for our line, but have shown nothing but rudeness to Rusty. I may very well have saved our railway, but he has kept it going. It would be rough riding were it not for his dedication.
Rusty was thrilled to bits. He hadn't expected Rheneas to vouch for him.
So, finished Rheneas, unless these visitors change their tune, they can jolly well walk back to Croven's Gate.
The thin controller was red in the face and speechless.
You're absolutely right, Rheneas.
Everyone turned to one of the visitors.
I rode this railway in its early days. The men tried hard, but they couldn't juggle driving engines, fixing coaches, and maintaining the line. Rusty has given the railway the tender love and care it so badly needed. These rails have never been smoother, and the ride up today was the finest I've had in years.
The other enthusiasts were very ashamed. They knew the elderly man was right.
Rusty, said one, we're very sorry. You've done wonders to these rails. Even better maintained than the Fat Controller's railway, said another. Hear, hear, cried the rest.
Rusty smiled wide for the first time that day. He thought his engine was going to burst.
And after you came to make sure our train ran this morning, added another, an apology just doesn't seem good enough. Is there anything we can do to make this up to you? If you'll entertain the idea, sir, Rheneas said to the thin controller, I think I know just how to rectify the situation.
In no time at all, the change was in effect. Rheneas had taken over the permanent way, and for the rest of the day, Rusty was in charge of the visitors' train. Rheneas's words had given him confidence like never before.
Since then, said Rusty, I've never had problems with coaches or visitors. I'm sure you would have got on just fine without me.
The two engines looked to see Rheneas pulling into the platform.
You've always been a hard worker, Rusty. A few words from an old engine had no bearing on that.
Oh, well, you're just being modest, Rusty chuckled. But, he finished, looking back to Mavis with a wink,
I suppose it just goes to show that sometimes all you need is a little push.
Mavis and Rheneas chuckled in agreement.